My son handed me a Father's Day card with a $5 bill for all the times Mom says you're too broke to matter. She laughed from the kitchen. Well, it's true. I took the card, kissed his forehead, and left without a word. Today he's 22. And she's screaming outside my house. Please, just talk to him. I caught the mouse and released my frustration on it before tossing it outside. That was how I started Father's Day. Not because of some poetic metaphor or dramatic flair. Because it had chewed through my box of retirement files in the garage and I needed an outlet before breakfast. We were still married then. Still doing the performance, birthday candles, toothpaste arguments, can you pick up milk, texts. That morning, my son ran up with a little construction paper card. Crayon handwriting. A folded $5 bill taped inside. Happy Father's Day, it read. For all the times Mom says you're too broke to matter. I blinked. Froze. Pretended it didn't punch a crater through my chest. She laughed from the kitchen. Well, it's true. I remember the way he looked up at me waiting. Not for thanks. Just acknowledgement. I kissed his forehead, told him I loved him, and stepped outside like I was going to get coffee. I didn't come back. Not that day. Not that week. I didn't even pack. Just got in my truck and kept driving. You have to understand I didn't plan it. I wasn't escaping to some fantasy life. I had a duffel bag in the back seat with gym shorts, receipts, and a flat soda. That's it. But there's something that happens when the house you live in turns into a museum of quiet hatred. When your own kid starts echoing the narrative. When your wife thinks you're a footnote she can mock in front of him like it's part of the family charm. I drove until my gas light came on. I slept in the parking lot of a shuttered Toys R Us that night under flickering security lights and the echoes of a life I no longer had. For 3 months I disappeared. To them I became the coward who left. They told people I was having a breakdown. That I'd always been unstable. That I snapped. Meanwhile, I worked odd jobs. Washed dishes in a bowling alley. Slept in a coworker's shed once. Ate gas station tuna. Wore the same hoodie for 17 days straight. I called my son once. Blocked number. He picked up and whispered, Dad? I didn't say anything. Just listened to him breathe. Then I hung up. I couldn't do it yet. I couldn't be someone to him while I was still made of glass. It took me 2 years to rebuild. I rented a room above a mechanic's shop, taught myself welding, and started getting steady work fixing fencing and broken gates. I lived small. Ate small. Thought small. But I never stopped thinking about that card. That line, too broke to matter. It looped in my head like a prayer and a curse. By year 3, I had a job with a private contractor doing custom security installations. Got certified. Wore a badge. Built something close to stable. Then out of nowhere, my wife served me papers. Not divorce. Not custody. A letter from her lawyer demanding back child support. Even though she'd never let me see him. Even though I tried. Letters. Voicemails. Bank deposits she never acknowledged. The court didn't care. The papers were clean. The story neatly told. She cried on the stand. Said I abandoned them. Said our son needed therapy. Said I was financially abusive. And the judge? He looked at me like I was a statistic. I lost everything I'd built in 1 calendar year. Wages garnished. Truck repossessed. Landlord evicted me when the press started sniffing around. I slept under a freeway overpass the night she won the full claim. My son was 10 then. I saw him once at a gas station with her. He was buying a Red Bull. Looked like me. Same tired eyes. Same crooked walk. I ducked behind the vending machine and cried until I tasted blood in my throat. I stopped trying after that. Because every time I reached out it backfired. She'd twist it. He'd ignore it. I'd lose. So I vanished again. This time with intention. I changed my name. Worked under aliases. Got hired by a private surveillance firm in Arizona and used my skills for something different, building lives for other people who needed to disappear. Abused spouses. Threatened witnesses. Kids from bad homes. I helped them vanish. Built entire backstories. IDs. Digital trails. I became the ghost maker. Ironic, huh? 12 years passed. I didn't hear his voice again until last year. He found me. Through a podcast of all things. A guest mentioned a reclusive security consultant who once rebuilt a fake neighborhood just to catch a stalker. He tracked the trail. Took 6 months. Then he showed up at my office with a file. Inside? Every lie she'd ever told. She said I cheated. She said I hit her. She said I spent his college fund on drugs. He found the receipts. Bank statements. Voice memos. Text logs. Even her old Facebook messages to a friend. He thinks he's so noble, walking away. Let's see how long he lasts without a spine. He didn't cry when he handed it to me. He just said, I think I believe you now. He was 21. Taller than me. Smarter. Quieter. He told me he'd spent the last 2 years unraveling her story. Told me how she made him feel like I was the enemy. How she burned every photo of me. How she refused to let him talk to my family. And the worst part? How he started to believe I never wanted him. That crushed me. He asked if I'd ever really left because of him. And I told him the truth. That card. That $5 bill. That little kid voice saying too broke to matter. He covered his face and sobbed like a child again. We stayed up all night. Talking. Rebuilding. Then came the scream. 2 weeks ago. She found out he was living with me. She showed up. At my door. Barefoot. Drunk. Makeup smeared. Hair in a bun I'd seen 1,000 times. Screaming. Please, just talk to him. I didn't open the door. He didn't want me to. She stood out there for 2 hours. Sobbing. Begging. Threatening. Whispering. I recorded all of it. And when she finally left, I burned the old card. Not out of hate. Out of mercy. He's 22 now. And I'm finally a father again. Not because a court said so. Not because I paid enough. Because he chose me. And that's something no lawyer, no lie, no laugh from the kitchen can ever undo. Update 1. I watched her break through my security cameras and I didn't call the cops. I wanted him to see who she really was. The first thing she did was tear the mailbox off the hinges. I watched it live from my phone, security feed blinking in monochrome gray, her face twisted, mascara bleeding into her hairline, lips pulled tight over her teeth like a wounded animal trying to mimic a smile. She shouted my name into the camera like she was demanding an explanation. I didn't call the cops. I watched. Quiet. He was at work. First shift at a little startup, his first real job. He left that morning with a packed lunch and a grin he hadn't worn since he was 8. I didn't want to ruin that. Let him have one clean day. She came back that night. This time with a brick. Security glass held barely. She stood there under the porch light, panting, sweating through a sweatshirt I hadn't seen since I left. My old college hoodie. She must have kept it all these years like a trophy. Like skin. I watched from the dark, 10 feet away behind the blackout curtains. I watched her scream, "This is kidnapping and he's my son and you stole my life," while she spit on the welcome mat. Still didn't call the cops. Instead, I hit record. Again. 2 days later, a manila envelope appeared in our mailbox. No return address. Inside? Photos. Old ones. Him 5, 6 years old, posing with her and some man I'd never seen. Hair gel. New watch. Hand on my son's shoulder like he owned it. Written on the back of one? His real father. That broke something in my boy. I found him on the floor of his room, pictures scattered, silent. Just staring. He didn't ask if it was true. He just said, "Why do I feel like a ghost in my own life?" I didn't have an answer. Later that night, we went to a diner. The kind with cracked booths and too much fluorescent lighting. He ordered pancakes. I didn't eat. He told me the man in the photos wasn't new. That she used to call him Uncle Ray. That he was at every school play, every parent-teacher meeting I'd never been invited to. She told him I had anger issues. That I couldn't be around kids. That the court took away visitation because I was dangerous. He said he believed her until he started noticing things. Like how Ray drank straight from the bottle when he thought no one was watching. How he yelled when he lost at Xbox. How he accidentally walked in on him changing. Twice. He didn't tell her. He told a guidance counselor. And then? Nothing. No report. No investigation. Just a transfer to a new school the next semester. She told him it was for his safety. That's when he started digging. Started questioning. Started finding my name online, old addresses, workshop footage, a single comment on an obscure dad's forum that matched a phrase I used to say when tucking him in. "You're made of the stars I lost." He hadn't heard that in over a decade. It was enough. He told me the real reason he tracked me down. It wasn't forgiveness. It was escape. He said he didn't care who was right. He just couldn't breathe in that house anymore. Said it felt like being buried in someone else's scrapbook. I told him the truth. There was never a custody battle. I signed the papers after the court-appointed therapist said it would confuse him to see me during the divorce. I thought I was protecting him, but I was just making space for her to rewrite history. 3 nights ago, she called from a new number. Left a voicemail that started like an apology. Ended with a threat. "I know where you work. I know where he parks. You think I don't have friends." She does. She always did. The kind that owe favors. The kind that believe her tears over your bruises. The kind that smile when she calls you paranoid. He listened to the voicemail 3 times. Then quietly asked, "Do you have a gun?" I told him yes. He nodded. Didn't flinch. Didn't ask to hold it. Just nodded like he was crossing an invisible line in his own head. This morning, he didn't go to work. He spent the whole day disassembling and reassembling the deadbolts. Took apart the motion sensors and rewired them himself. Set up new camera angles. Ran cable under the siding. He didn't ask for help. Didn't even look up when I brought him coffee. Just kept working, jaw clenched, eyes hollow. At sunset, he said, "I feel better when I'm building defenses." And I realized, he's me now. The ghost. The planner. The man who stopped waiting to be saved and started building fortresses out of pain. I should be proud. But all I feel is rage. Quiet. Surgical. Focused. She wants a war? I can give her one. But not with fists. Not with police reports. With truth. I'm going to build a digital archive. Every lie. Every voicemail. Every affidavit she forged. Every social post she deleted. Every friend who co-signed her stories. And when it's ready, I'm going to send it to one person. Her pastor. He baptized her last year. Big ceremony. White dress. She posted about redemption and second chances, and rising from the ashes. I'll let him rise this time, with the truth in his inbox. Let's see how holy she feels then. My son's asleep on the couch beside me. He locked every window before closing his eyes, and clutched that crayon card like a warning label. It's not Father's Day anymore. It's something darker, something earned. It doesn't end with safety. It ends with legacy. Update 2. I mailed the pastor her confession letter, and found out she'd already sent him one about me. But mine had audio. It arrived the next morning. White envelope. My son's name scrawled in careful script on the front. No return address. We stood over it like it was a live grenade. He opened it with a knife. Inside, a letter. 3 pages. Neatly typed. Double-spaced. Titled, "To the son I lost to lies." Her words, not mine. She accused me of manipulating her. Said I stole her baby. Said I was brainwashing him the same way I'd gaslit her in our marriage. She said she stayed with me for the safety net. That she tried to make it work. That she carried the financial burden while he chased failure after failure. She accused me of emotional incest. Said I isolated him because I couldn't handle being replaced. Every sentence felt like a scalpel. But my son? He read it silently, then flipped the last page over, looking for more. "Where's the apology?" he asked. I didn't have an answer. Instead, I handed him my phone, played the voicemail again. Her voice, raw and unfiltered. "You think I don't have friends? I can make him disappear." He listened, once, then again, then forwarded it to himself. Didn't say a word. Just walked into the garage and came back an hour later with a flash drive and a folder. Inside the folder, a list of names. Every teacher who looked the other way. Every neighbor who told him, "You should be grateful. Your mom works so hard." Every family friend who posted laughing photos at her divorce party. He was building a dossier. I didn't ask him to. He just did. That night, I sent the email. To the pastor. BCC to the church board. Attached the voicemail, screenshots of her texts, the letter she wrote our son, and a time-stamped log of every break-in attempt on our property. No threats. No commentary. Just the facts. 1 hour later, I got a reply. Short. "Thank you for your courage. We've been misled. That ends today." And that was it. 2 hours after that, she was removed from the church's Facebook page. 5 hours? Her redemption blog went private. By morning, mutuals were messaging my son, saying, "We didn't know," and "She told us something different," and "Can we talk?" He blocked them all. Cold. Clean. She didn't show up for 2 days. Then Thursday came. She walked into his work. Hair blown out. New coat. Smile like nothing had happened. Told the front desk she was his mother. That he'd forgotten his medication. That it was urgent. The receptionist called him. He didn't pick up. She left a bottle of Advil and a handwritten note. "You're sick. You don't even see it. Come home before it's too late." He came home shaking. I changed all the locks that night. Again. We installed bullet cameras the next morning. Motion-triggered alerts. Live streaming to both our phones. I bought a backup battery system in case she cut power. We were done pretending this was anything less than war. Then came the call. From a number I hadn't used in years. His grandfather, my dad. We hadn't spoken since the divorce. He'd taken her side. Said I was always dramatic. That I never finished anything. But now? His voice was trembling. He'd gotten a call. From her. She told him I was brainwashing his grandson. That I was a danger to myself and others. That I had a history of psychotic breaks. He believed her. Until she slipped. Said my son was never really mine anyway. His silence was immediate. She realized it mid-sentence. Tried to walk it back. He hung up. Called me. Said, I think I owe you a real conversation. I didn't say yes. Didn't say no. Just listened. He said she used to come over with my son. Said she'd cry on the porch, say I wouldn't let her see him, say I was keeping him hostage in a workshop. He said he never questioned it, because she always made sure to cry just enough. He asked if he could meet his grandson. I asked my son. He nodded. Once. So we did. Met in a public park. Neutral ground. Cameras. Daylight. My dad cried within 10 minutes. My son didn't. He asked one question, why didn't you look for me? My father didn't have an answer. Only a hug. Afterward, my son said it felt like shaking hands with the ghost of a man I never got to love. I didn't know what to say. I still don't. Because now we're at the edge. The part of the story where things can't be undone. Where the narrative splits before and after. Because this morning, she filed for guardianship. Claimed I was unfit. Said my son was mentally compromised. That I'd erased his identity. And the court? Is listening. Because he's still technically under her medical power of attorney from a form she filed when he was 15. A form she forged his signature on. We only found out because she submitted it again, attached to a motion to force him into psychological evaluation. My lawyer says we have a case. But it'll get ugly. And fast. We're gathering everything. Witnesses. Logs. Affidavits. We're building a war chest. But there's one thing she doesn't know. The part I've been saving. In the attic, in a fireproof box, I kept a mini recorder. One she never knew about. It's been sealed since 2011. Inside? 3 hours of her screaming. Calling me worthless. Telling our son I was just a broken wallet. Telling him, you're lucky I don't drop you off at a fire station and start over. Him 5 years old, begging her to stop. Crying. I never used it in the divorce. Never showed it to the court. Thought it would destroy him. But now? He's listening to it. Right now. In his room. Door closed. Lights off. I haven't heard a sound in 2 hours. And I don't know what he'll be when he walks back out. All I know is, the boy I kissed goodbye on Father's Day? He doesn't live here anymore. The man replacing him? He's building something much colder. Much sharper. And I don't know who it's meant to cut. Yet. Final update coming soon. It doesn't end in court. It ends with consequences. Final update, he listened to the tape. Then asked me for wire cutters. By sunrise, we had a room she'll never walk into again. He didn't cry. He didn't rage. When the last second of that tape rolled out, his 5-year-old voice stuttering, please, mommy, I'll be good, he just sat there. Completely still. Like he was trying to feel something and couldn't find the right file in his own body. I didn't interrupt. I watched him rewind it. Listen again. Only this time, when she called him a mistake she regretted keeping, he didn't flinch. He just pressed pause. And said, I need wire cutters. I didn't ask why. I just opened the toolbox. He spent the whole night in the basement. Didn't let me come down. All I heard were dragging sounds. Screws. The soft whir of a drill. And music, some low instrumental loop that repeated like a prayer with no words. At 5:11 a.m. he came upstairs covered in sawdust, hoodie soaked in sweat, face expressionless. It's ready, he said. The basement had been storage, old tools, lumber, and broken furniture I couldn't bring myself to toss. Yeah? It was stripped. Clean. Concrete exposed. In the center, a chair. Not tied down. Not sinister. Just centered. On the wall behind it, painted in thick red ink. For all the times I wasn't real. I didn't ask what it meant. Because I already knew. There was a second chair beside it. He gestured for me to sit. He sat opposite me. Between us, a recorder. He pressed play. This is our record, he said. And then for 2 hours, we confessed. He told me about the night he almost swallowed an entire bottle of Tylenol because his mother told him his real dad had died saving children from a fire. I told him about the day I almost drove into the lake when the judge handed her full custody without even looking at me. He told me about the bruises. I told him about the mice in the motel pantry and the way I used to name them to stay sane. He told me how she laughed when he said he missed me. I told him how I stayed alive because I believed one day he'd ask why I left. He said, I'm not asking anymore. Then he stood, walked over to the recorder, pressed stop. I'm mailing this to her, he said. I blinked. Why? He turned, and for the first time in all these years I saw it. The part of me he inherited. That slow, burning calm. The kind of stillness that lives in men who've been broken in private for too long. She made stories. This is ours, he said. Let her know we remember. We didn't argue. We didn't plan. We just went upstairs. He boxed the recorder in cheap Amazon packaging. Wrote her name in huge block letters and left it on the porch. We watched the footage later. She came at noon, wearing sunglasses, holding her phone like a weapon. She didn't knock, just stared at the box, picked it up, stared at the camera, and smiled. Not warmth, not confusion, something triumphant. She thought it was an olive branch. We never saw her again after that. 2 days later, a police cruiser idled across the street for half an hour. Didn't knock, just watched. We waved. They drove off. That night, I found my son on the roof, lying flat on his back, staring at nothing. "There's no such thing as healing," he said. "Just new compartments." I lay beside him, said nothing. After 20 minutes, he said, "I don't feel her anymore." And that's when I knew the war was over. Not because we won, but because she lost access. A week later, we moved. Didn't announce it. Didn't post. Didn't leave a forwarding address. We built a new routine. Cheap coffee. Lawn chairs on a crumbling porch. Long silences that didn't feel empty. We started living. Not chasing. Not proving. Just breathing without waiting to be interrupted. Sometimes he paints. Always in red. Always on raw wood. He never signs his name. Says names are for people who can still be claimed. As for me, I kept one thing from the old house. That Father's Day card. I found it in the crawlspace, yellowed, bent, with the tape still sticky from where the $5 bill used to be. I framed it, hung it over the basement stairs, because this story doesn't end with forgiveness. It ends with accuracy. And sometimes, that's all the justice you get. She never responded to the tape, but I like to think she listened, to every word, to the silence that followed, to the weight of a son who chose the man without money over the woman with every excuse. Because the truth, I wasn't broke. I was building. And now, she doesn't even have his name saved in her phone anymore. But mine, he tattooed it across his ribs last month. Simple, clean, just one word, real.